What's up, everybody? Welcome to Successor Tactics. This is the series in which I'm going to look at official Successor chapters from the six first founding chapters represented in the standard Space Marine Codex, as well as those chapters of unknown lineage that are also depicted or would be depicted with this codex. So basically, if it's a known successor of the Blood Angels, Dark Angels, or even Space Wolves, I will not be going over them. But if it's merely something that is suspected and therefore also showcased for the regular Space Marine Codex, they may get covered in addition to what I just mentioned. And the idea here is to talk about these official successor chapters insofar as doing kind of a quick-ish ramble rundown of what successor chapter tactics from the Space Marine Codex would best fit. What combination would best fit for that particular chapter in question? Because there's lots of cool successor chapters out there, and some of them really are so close to what the first founding forces are like that they can make use of a particular chapter tactic of successor variety that allows them to make use of one of the six first founding chapter tactics. So there is a successor chapter tactic for that. And I may go over a couple of chapters where that would be the case, just to kind of clarify. But the idea here is to give you my personal take on what I feel would best represent the successor chapter in question. So I thought for the first one, I would do the Raptors Space Marine chapter, a second founding successor to the Raven Guard. They are a pretty cool chapter. They were in the Badab War book, and they do things pretty, I don't want to say pretty differently from the Raven Guard. They're not like, it's not like night and day difference, but they definitely have their own kind of way of conducting warfare for sure. So with that said, I was looking at the successor chapter tactics to decide which two really work for them, and there was one kind of, for me, no-brainer pick. And then on top of that, I was looking at the other ones trying to decide what would best fit the feel of these guys. And I'm going to kind of give two combinations that use the same successor chapter tactic, and then in conjunction with one of two different others to go with, because you have to pick two. And with that said, let's jump right into it. So the first one that I feel is a no-brainer that should probably be in any Raptors successor tactic picks, it is long-range marksman. The Raptors Space Marine chapter is well known for its dedication to marksmanship. They're very good in the shooty. So that's what they really prefer, and they prefer it because they'd rather a quick end at range than a potentially costly and drawn-out melee. It's a very pragmatic chapter focused on survival for victory's sake. To survive and win and carry on their duties, and the idea of honor and glory isn't really as important to them. So, as opposed to cutting down their foe in melee and winning great glory, perhaps amongst their peers, they'd rather shoot them dead. So, long-range marksman is definitely, I think, a tactic for the Raptors. This basically adds 3 inches to the range characteristic of ranged weapons. The way it's written verbatim is kind of weirdly written when you read it, so I'm just kind of paraphrasing there. But it works out very nicely for the Raptors, further giving them that long-range punch, that marksmanship capability, the ability to start shooting you before you could shoot them if you have the same exact build, because they're just that well trained at marksmanship with equipment and the like. So it works out for me. The second pick is more of a case of your style, really, for the Raptors, because the Raptors are very open-ended when it comes to combat. They prefer long-range marksmanship style tactics, but as far as how you complement that, what they do is whatever wins them the day. They'll use camouflage. They use camouflage all the time. They're not averse to that. They'll hit and run. They'll redeploy. They'll do whatever. So you could pick Tactical Withdrawal. Units with this tactic can charge in a turn in which they fell back. Not the best pairing necessarily with long range marksmen, but they do a lot of hit and run themselves, and they are just successors of the Raven Guard, which are also known for hit and run tactics. So it could, and its Tactical Withdrawal is kind of described as hit and run warfare. So that's one way to go about it. And there's a couple other tactics you could pick in place of this. I'm only going to go over one other one. So remember, long range marksman is one of the picks. But I personally feel, for me, I would use Stealthy. They are successors of the Raven Guard. Raven Guard kind of like Ninja Space Marines to a certain degree, so stealth is there. These guys do make use of deception in their battles. They will do whatever it takes to throw the enemy off, to get them off kilter, and then just crush them with firepower and whatever else is necessary. And part of their tactic is to make use of camouflage. So I feel Stealthy is a very good pick, provided your playstyle isn't much more of a perhaps different field where something else would work better for you. And that's one of the nice things about the Raptors chapter, is that they have a very certain way of doing things, but it's not just set in stone, this is it and nothing more. In fact, they view the Codex Astartes as a great set of guidelines, but not a rigid dogma. So the only real constant to them is that they like to shoot things at range. Marksmanship is very important to the chapter. Outside of that, all bets are off. So for me, personally, I brought up Tactical Withdrawal just because it's a hit and run thing. It's an interesting switch up and not something you might normally pair with long range marksman. But honestly, for me, it's long range marksman and then Stealthy. And what Stealthy does is, when resolving an attack made with a ranged weapon against a unit with this tactic by a model that is more than 12 inches away, that unit is treated as having the benefit of cover to its saving throw. Basically, if your model is being shot at and the enemy is more than 12 inches away that's shooting you, you get the benefit of Stealthy. Considering you have long range marksman, you're going to be firing at range, chances are you're going to be able to make a decent amount of use with Stealthy. So that is my personal pick for the Raptors chapter, a second founding successor to the Raven Guard that prize marksmanship, very good at marksmanship, and also view the Codex Astartes as merely guidelines to apply on an as-needed basis to whatever situation and constantly flow and adapt around. So you could make cases, for sure, for several other of the successor chapter tactics in the book, but I'm not going to get too bogged down in the minutia of that and describe it. I just want to kind of bring up some kind of a random thing with the Tactical Withdrawal concept, but really, long-range marksman Stealthy is what I would do if I ran these guys. It's by no means anything that's set in stone. So I really encourage you to share your thoughts. If you have the Codex, play along. What do you think the Raptors chapter would benefit from having for successor chapter tactics? And with that all said, that's pretty much it for the Raptors. And I guess I'll just go real quick over the concept for the Successor Tactics series one more time before signing off here. The idea is not to go in depth on the chapter at all. That's what an at-a-glance does, but it doesn't even go in depth. It gives you an appetizer, sample, or glimpse. So the idea here is just to kind of go over their combat doctrine just enough to get an idea of what we're messing with, and then look at the Successor Chapter Tactics and see which one fits best for them. So with that all set up and understood, hopefully, thanks very much for tuning in, and don't forget to leave your thoughts on the chapter in question, what you would pick if you have the Codex. Whether you agree or disagree, whatever, be sure to share why, and hit that subscribe button to be part of future conversations. And until next time, take it easy.